There is a place on Earth where the ground beneath an entire city is slowly releasing poison gas, not in a remote jungle, not on an uninhabited island, in one of the most densely populated coastal regions of Europe. Millions of people live there. The gas has already killed people in enclosed spaces. The ground is rising, the earthquakes are increasing, and scientists are watching a system that last erupted so violently it may have contributed to the collapse of an entire civilization. This is not a future risk. This is happening right now, slowly, silently, invisibly, and the people living on top of it go about their lives. Because what else do you do when you were born in a place and it is the only home you have ever known? The place is called Campi Flegrei, and most people outside of Italy have never heard of it, which is part of what makes this story so important. Stay with me, because this one gets more disturbing the deeper it goes. Let's start with what Campi Flegrei actually is, because most people who hear the word volcano think of a single mountain with a cone-shaped peak. Campi Flegrei is nothing like that. Campi Flegrei, which translates from Italian as Phlegrean fields or burning fields, is a supervolcanic system located on the western edge of Naples, Italy. A caldera is not a mountain. It is a massive depression in the earth formed when a volcanic system erupts so catastrophically that the ground above it collapses inward. The Campi Flegrei caldera is approximately 13 kilometers wide, and it sits beneath a densely populated coastline where roughly 500,000 people live directly on top of it, with the greater Naples metropolitan area of over 3 million people just kilometers away. This is not a dormant system. It is classified as active, and it has been showing signs of increasing unrest for decades. Here is what has been happening beneath the ground. Since the 1950s, the Campi Flegrei system has experienced what geologists call bradyseism, a slow vertical movement of the ground caused by changes in pressure and fluid movement within the volcanic system below. In simple terms, the ground is breathing. It rises when pressure builds, it falls when pressure releases. And since the 1950s, the net result of this breathing has been a significant upward trend. In the 1970s and 1980s, the ground in the town of Pozzuoli, which sits directly above the caldera, rose by nearly 2 meters in less than a decade. The structural damage caused by this movement caused thousands of buildings to fail. The Italian government carried out large-scale evacuations twice, in 1970 and again in 1984, relocating residents as the ground shook and cracked beneath them. Then the ground settled, the crisis appeared to pass, many people moved back, and the world largely forgot about it. But the system did not stop. It kept moving, slowly, silently. And since around 2005, the rate of uplift has been accelerating again. The ground is rising faster than it was 20 years ago. The frequency of small earthquakes beneath the caldera has been increasing, and the gas emissions, the part that most people never hear about, have been intensifying. Now let's talk about the gas, because this is the layer of the story that rarely gets attention. Volcanic systems like Campi Flegrei are not just about lava and eruptions. They constantly release gases through the ground and through hydrothermal vents, cracks and openings where heat and fluids from deep underground escape to the surface. At Campi Flegrei, the primary gases being released are carbon dioxide, hydrogen sulfide, and sulfur dioxide. Carbon dioxide is the one that kills quietly. It is heavier than air. It does not rise and disperse. It sinks. It flows. It collects in low-lying areas, basements, underground car parks, caves, valleys, anywhere that allows it to accumulate without wind to disperse it, and at sufficient concentration, it displaces oxygen. A person who walks into a space with a high enough CO2 concentration doesn't smell anything unusual. They feel slightly dizzy, then confused, then they lose consciousness, and if nobody moves them, they don't wake up. This has already happened at Campi Flegrei. There are documented cases of animals, dogs, cats, livestock, dying in low-lying areas near gas vents when CO2 concentrations spiked during periods of increased volcanic activity. The area around Solfatara, one of the main hydrothermal sites within the Campi Flegrei system, has recorded atmospheric concentrations of CO2 high enough to be dangerous to humans. In 2017, a horrific accident occurred at the Solfatara crater when a family of 4 fell into a gas-saturated fumarolic area. The father fell in first. The mother went in to help him. Both were overcome by the gas before they could get out. Their 12-year-old son went in after them and was also overcome. All 3 died. The youngest child, a 7-year-old, survived only because he ran for help instead of following his family. That accident did not happen during an eruption. It did not happen during a crisis event. It happened on an ordinary day in a tourist area because the invisible gas was there, concentrated in a low area, waiting. This is what makes Campi Flegrei different from a conventional volcanic threat. You don't need an eruption for people to die. The gas itself, under normal conditions of volcanic unrest, is already a killer, and the gas emissions at Campi Flegrei have been increasing. Monitoring stations throughout the caldera have recorded rising concentrations of CO2 and hydrogen sulfide in the soil and atmosphere over the past 2 decades. The temperature of the hydrothermal fluids, the hot water and steam that moves through the volcanic system and carries gases to the surface, has been increasing. This is interpreted by volcanologists as a sign that the system is heating up. More heat means more gas. More gas means higher concentrations, and higher concentrations in a densely populated area mean a higher risk of exactly the kind of accident that happened in 2017, but potentially at much greater scale.
Now let's put this in the context of what Campi Flegrei is capable of, because the current unrest is worrying precisely because of what this system has done in the past. The most recent major eruption of Campi Flegrei occurred in 1538. It was not a small event. Over the course of about a week, volcanic activity built up a new cinder cone, a hill called Monte Nuovo, or New Mountain, that rose 130 meters out of the earth. The eruption destroyed the nearby town of Tripergole and killed several people who had stayed to watch. A new mountain appeared out of the ground in a week, in a populated area in what are now the suburbs of Naples. But that 1538 eruption is not the one that scientists worry about most when they study Campi Flegrei's history. The eruption that concerns them happened approximately 39,000 years ago. It is called the Campanian Ignimbrite eruption, and it was one of the largest volcanic events in European history during the period when modern humans were present on the continent. The Campanian Ignimbrite eruption released an estimated 300 cubic kilometers of volcanic material. For comparison, the 1980 eruption of Mount St. Helens released about 1 cubic kilometer. The Campi Flegrei eruption was 300 times larger. It sent ash across Europe, the Middle East, and into Russia. It created a volcanic winter, and there is a hypothesis, still debated but taken seriously by researchers, that this eruption played a role in the decline of Neanderthal populations in Europe, that the volcanic winter and the ecological disruption it caused contributed to conditions that pushed an already stressed population past the point of recovery. A volcanic event at Campi Flegrei changed the trajectory of human evolution on this continent. That is the scale of what this system is capable of. The current level of unrest is not equivalent to what preceded the Campanian Ignimbrite eruption. Scientists are clear about that. The ground uplift and gas emissions being measured today are consistent with a system in an elevated activity,
but not necessarily building toward a catastrophic eruption. The most likely scenario, if an eruption were to occur, would be something more like the 1538 Monte Nuovo event, significant, destructive, requiring massive evacuations, but not civilization ending. But here's the problem with that reassurance. Even a moderate eruption of Campi Flegrei, something in the range of the 1538 event, would require the evacuation of between 500,000 and 800,000 people from the immediate caldera zone. The evacuation plans for Campi Flegrei exist. They have been developed and revised. They involve color-coded alert levels, pre-planned evacuation routes, and reception areas outside the danger zone. The current alert level of Campi Flegrei has been raised in recent years from green to yellow, indicating that the system is in a state of unrest that requires active monitoring. But the logistics of evacuating 500,000 people from a dense urban area on short notice with limited road access, a population that includes the elderly, the sick, and those who will simply refuse to leave, is staggering. And the warning time for a volcanic eruption is not guaranteed to be sufficient. At some volcanic systems, the time between the onset of intense precursor activity and the eruption itself is measured in hours, not weeks. And while all of this is happening above ground, the monitoring, the planning, the political debates about whether to relocate populations permanently, the gas is still seeping every day through the soil, into the basements, into the low-lying areas, building up in places where the wind doesn't reach and the CO2 has nowhere to go. The people who live in Pozzuoli and the other towns on the caldera have a complicated relationship with the ground they live on. Many of them have been there for generations. Their families are buried there. Their businesses are there. The idea of permanent relocation is not just a logistical problem, it is a profound disruption of identity and belonging. People have chosen to stay in places where the ground visibly cracked and moved, where buildings were damaged by earthquakes, where the smell of sulfur is a daily background condition of life, because it's home, because they believe the scientists are too cautious, because the risk feels abstract until it doesn't. And then there is the political dimension. The Italian government has been managing this situation for decades. It has evacuated populations twice. It has provided structural assessments of buildings on the caldera. It has funded monitoring infrastructure. But the full, permanent relocation of hundreds of thousands of people is not something any government has ever done outside of the aftermath of a disaster. Doing it preemptively, when the scientists say the risk is elevated but not certain, when the eruption might be decades away or might never occur, is politically almost impossible. So the ground keeps rising, the gas keeps seeping, the earthquakes keep rattling windows and cracking plaster in Pozzuoli, and the monitoring stations keep recording their data, and the scientists keep writing their papers, and the evacuation plans keep being revised, while 500,000 people go about their daily lives on top of one of the most geologically active and potentially dangerous volcanic systems in Europe. This is not a story about an imminent catastrophe. It is a story about a slow, invisible, ongoing situation that most of the world is not paying attention to, about people living inside a geological process that is larger and older and more powerful than any human system for managing it, about the gap between what science can measure and what governments can act on and what populations can accept. The ground is still rising, the gas is still building, the system is still watching and waiting, as it has been for thousands of years, on its own timescale, completely indifferent to the millions of people living on its surface. The sky still hides secrets, and this is just the beginning. Subscribe to Fact Harbor for more mysteries.